Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thank you, Jess, and welcome everybody to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm your host, Josh Taylor. Good to talk to you again on a Friday night, and a Friday night with a lot of stuff happening in town. Paul Skenes is officially in Pittsburgh. He's been officially recalled from Indianapolis. He will make his debut tomorrow for the Pirates against the Cubs, 4:05 first pitch at PNC Park. Also, first day of Steelers minicamp, or should I say rookie minicamp, and the first-year players over on the field at the South Side. So a lot to discuss, and my guest to help me do that this evening, my buddy Suzie Cool. She's over in the 1020 KDKA AM newsroom. Suzie, let's start with this game with the Cubs before we get to Paul Skenes. I know there's a lot to talk about there, but this game tonight with the Cubs, it's final probably within the last 20 minutes or so. 7-2, the Cubs beat the Pirates. Jarrett Jones started on the mound tonight. Going into this weekend, Pirates had arguably the best young 1 and 2 rotation pair on the mound with Jones tonight and Skenes tomorrow. Jarrett Jones keeps it close, but then the bullpen can't hold water late in the game. The offense got 2 runs in the first inning and couldn't get any more after that, and those 2 runs came off the bat of Nick Gonzalez, who just got called up. He was their hottest hitter in the minors. There's a couple different things we could take from this game, Suzie, but what's the one thing you saw tonight that probably made the difference for the Pirates in this game?
First of all, let's not blame this game on Jarrett Jones.
Agreed.
This was arguably his worst start of the season, and I don't even know if you can really call it a bad start. He just didn't have the offense behind him, and that has been the Pirates' Achilles heel all season, at least whenever they see themselves in a rough patch. Whenever you're only producing your offense in the first inning and it's just 2 runs, I mean, that's 8 other innings that you have to hold your opponent off. So the fact that they couldn't produce runs, and even though they had a couple of runners in scoring position, what are you doing? This lineup needs to find something, and they need to find it quick. Nick Gonzalez was the one to deliver those runs tonight, so maybe it is him.
Yeah, usually you hear people talk about 4 runs. 4 runs is usually that magic number with offenses in baseball. If you can score 4 or more, you're pretty much in every game you're going to play unless your pitching completely falls apart. This team recently, it feels like 2 is the quota. They usually get to 2, and they don't get much further, or they don't get to 2 at all. It just seems like that's the one thing they can't seem to crack, is getting to that 4-run plateau, if you will. And honestly, when you load the bases like they did in the first inning, you figure, all right, get a crooked number on the board, try to get yourself a lead and pad it a little bit. They got 2 off 1 swing of the bat. It was the first pitch Nick Gonzalez saw, and they really didn't threaten after that. They had a couple of chances in the 9th inning, couldn't get anything done. Granted, huge catch at the wall in the 9th inning to probably rob Andrew McCutchen of extra bases. But by then, it was pretty much already out of sorts. But you're right. It takes, a lot of, and it really doesn't take a lot. It just takes some simple analysis to look at the fact that this Pirates offense, it doesn't matter where you look in the lineup right now, Suzie. They just can't seem to generate offense anywhere, consistently at least.
No, and that was something that Richie and I talked about last week, is there is no real consistency throughout this lineup. You have 2 players that pretty much start every single day. That's Connor Joe and O'Neal Cruz that are hitting above 250. Just 2 players on this roster that pretty much see time on the lineup every single day. Where I get a little bit confused from everything is the fact that this team in spring training, prior to the season starting, they led all of Major League Baseball with home runs. They had power. And every single one of these people that is in this lineup was excited about the offense that this team was able to produce. And then against Miami, every single game, they see double-digit hits. Where is that team? Where did they go? And where was it lost?
You see games like this, and I'm reminded of what Clint Hurler used to always say. He would say that, you come in and you'll punch, and this league will punch back. But can you counterpunch? The Pirates came into this season. They came into March and April, and they were punching. The league punched back. And they have not been able to counterpunch. It just feels like that has been the trend. Like you said, they came in, they started off hot against Miami. They were scoring runs, they were getting things done, racking up hits. Even if the pitching wasn't stellar, the offense was at least keeping them in games. Then the pitching started to level out. It stepped up its level, and the hitting just dropped its level and never rose back up again. It's almost like you're seeing the water kind of just really rise unevenly as far as the pitching raising that standard and the hitting not doing that. And now you got Paul Skenes walking in to this organization, or I should say to this big league roster, and you're wondering if they can even provide enough offense to support him.
And that has been my biggest concern. Everybody's really excited, and we'll probably talk about it all next segment, whenever that may be. But Paul Skenes getting called up, yes, let's be excited about him. He's the #1 pitching prospect in all of Major League Baseball. But Paul Skenes can go and pitch all 9 innings tomorrow night. If his offense doesn't produce, they're still not going to get a win. And who is everybody going to fault for that? You cannot fault Paul Skenes. You got to fault the guys that are supposed to bring the bats. Paul Skenes can't play for everybody on the field, just like Jared Jones couldn't get out there and get his own win tonight as well.
You can't blame pitchers if your offense can't score in the National League, and especially now with the DH in the National League, the pitcher's pretty much absolved from the offense trying to do the job for him. 412-575-2600. Give us a call. We will take a break. When we come back, we have our tweet of the night, plus we're taking your phone calls, and we're taking your tweets as well at Josh Taylor HD. Stick around. Welcome back. Time for our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. Comes from Paul Skenes Muse. That's an interesting account on X. Jarrett Jones through 8 starts this season, 47 innings, 2.68 ERA, 0.87 WHIP, 56 strikeouts, 7 walks, and a 2-4 record. Get this man some run support. He might even be able to sue Suzie Cole. He might be able to file a lawsuit against his own teammates for lack of run support. But it's a problem, and we talked about this in the first segment of the show. 412-575-2600. Josh Taylor, Suzie Cole here with me in the 1020 AM KDKA newsroom. It becomes a big issue, not only the run support, but when your defense fails you in what ended up being a critical part of the game. I think it was in the 5th inning, Cody Bellinger with the base hit. You had a runner coming around third, Nico Horner, Brian Reynolds, and O'Neal Cruz, to their credit. Pretty much as clean of a relay you could have from right field to near first base, and the throw to Cruz at the plate. They had Horner by multiple steps. Yasmani Grandal goes to tag him and drops the ball. That was the game-tying run for the Cubs. That becomes an issue in a game where runs were so hard to come by for your offense. You need to keep them off the board. They couldn't do it there, and that really helped things get back in order for the Cubs. That tied the game for them, and they pulled away later on. But, Suzie, we're talking about a veteran catcher who just found his way back to this lineup after being out with an injury. Something like that happens, and it really changes the whole complexion of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, you send Henry Davis down to AAA because, you know, his bat isn't going, but a lot of people liked his defensive structure this year. A lot of pitchers liked whenever he was catching them. So whenever you have Grandal in the lineup, you're thinking that he's going to add that pop. And he really even didn't do that tonight until the 9th inning with, you know, a double, which great for him, but then it's almost too late to even be out here producing any hits whenever you're already losing 7-2. That play in the 5th inning was completely pivotal for this entire game. If Grandal just makes that play, it's a completely different ball game. The Cubs aren't scoring 2 runs there, and then it's not tied, and the Pirates might actually have some momentum moving forward. But whenever you're Jared Jones and you've already put in as much work as you have in this game, and maybe you're not feeling your sharpest, you're not feeling your best, you got to go back out on the mound for the 6th inning after a huge error like that. That's a little bit bummy.
Yeah, he gave up 3 runs in this game. I like to charge him with just 2. I don't think the second one's his fault. I think his defense has to bail him out. Suzie, I've been hosting this show for a little bit more than 9 years, and I've been saying this for probably 9 years, if not longer. I feel like there's 3 things in baseball that are pretty important: offense, defense, and pitching. You can win with 2 of those things, 2 of those 3 every night. One of them has to be pitching. They got that tonight. The other 2 things failed in different aspects, especially the defense that you talked about in the 5th inning. We talked about the offense, you know, getting 2 runs in the first, and we never heard from them again. The defense had the opportunity to keep them in this game and probably keep them ahead, and it failed them just as much as the offense did the remaining 8 innings after they scored in the first.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, though, I'm not really nervous about the defense with this team because, again, I don't think that that is the issue with the Pirates lineup right now. I mean, if you look back to Mitch Keller's complete game last Monday, the team made really, really great plays for him. I forget who was out in right field. I mean, they made a great play right at the warning track off the wall. The defense is here. There was one of those pop-up plays behind second base at one point. So they're making these highlight reel plays almost every single game. Tonight it was just they didn't have pitching and defense and offense. They only had the pitching going for them. But can you even count that they had the pitching for them when the bullpen comes in after Jared Jones and blows it?
That's
I think
very true.
Completely with the team, it was just not a complete team game tonight. And unfortunately, Jared Jones got left out to dry.
412-575-2600. Let's start with Matt and Butler. Matt, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, guys, 2 quick points. I think the pitchers are put in a position where they're pressing. I think he was pressing tonight because he knew you're going to get no run support. After you got the 2 runs, you now start to try to make perfect pitches, and it doesn't happen. That works against you. Second point is I think the Pirates' defense is awful. O'Neal Cruz leads the league in errors at shortstop. Is the worst. And they have a ton of errors all over, including the one tonight that I believe you said it right, changed the outlook of that game. And they can't bunt. They have no fundamentals.
Thanks for the call, Matt. I do not care about bunting. I'm one of those people that believes it's just an easy out. But Matt brings up a good point. When offense is hard to come by and you don't know if your defense is always reliable, it does put a little bit more onus on the pitcher to maybe be a little bit too perfect. And we've seen pitchers, not only with the Pirates, we've seen pitchers with other teams kind of get into that mode before. I can think back to Jacob deGrom with the Mets in his prime in New York. We saw Jacob deGrom, he'd go 8-9 innings, give up a run or 2 and still lose because his offense couldn't score for him. And it's one of those things where you will see, not every pitcher does it, but some do, Suzie. You will see that become a problem because the pitcher just can't count on the guys around him to help him get the job done.
Yeah, and I mean, the perfect example was looking at that Jared Jones tweet of the night that we had there.
Yep.
What was it, 47 1/3 innings, and he's going 2 and 4, even though he's striking out 6-7 guys a game. Tonight was his lowest strikeout total of the entire season with just 4. This kid is going out there and dealing every single game, and he's just a rookie. So it might be starting to weigh on him. Matt might be bringing up a great point. Maybe he was trying to dial in a little bit too hard. Maybe his stuff just wasn't as sharp because he was like, you know what, I got those 2 runs, but now I need to make the rest of this game count. But that's not fair to put on your starting pitching, especially when the starting pitching going into this week, again, they're the best aspect of this team right now. They gave this team 16 quality starts going into this week alone. So the lineup, I'm going to sound like a broken record tonight, needs to start backing them up.
And let's think back to last season. Remember that start they won, what was it, 20-9 to open the season last year? Remember all the quality starts that rotation was cranking out that first couple months of the season? And that faucet kind of shut off. A couple guys got hurt. Then the offense started to fall off a cliff, and you saw that slide happen. It's probably right around, if not the same time as this year, but maybe a little bit later in the month of May. But that's when you saw things start to slide off because a couple pitchers got injured, the offense couldn't score runs, and you saw that, that domino effect happen with this team last season. You can't afford to see that 2 years in a row. Terry in Gibsonia, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
As you said, starting pitching hasn't been an issue, and I don't see Paul Skenes making an impact given this offense, and the averages of these position players is dreadful. Do you place blame on the batting coach, or what's going on with coaching these guys up to bring these averages up?
Appreciate the call, Terry. I had this discussion earlier today, Suzie. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that believes that hitting coaches aren't there to make players great. They're just there to make sure that players don't fall off completely. And I think that's where the problem is. Too many guys are falling off at the same time. If everybody's not hitting 280 plus, I don't care. But when you have a bunch of guys struggling at the same time, then I start looking at what the coaching aspect might be like.
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier. When you have only 2 players on your entire lineup hitting over 250, what are you doing? Why is Jack Zawinski still in the lineup and not down in AAA whenever he's batting 170? I can't watch him misplay another ball in center field. I quite literally cannot. And then he's not good at batting to boot. So I don't necessarily blame it on the hitting coach for the Pirates because when you look at what Nick Gonzalez did tonight in that first pitch in his first at bat back up in the bigs, He actually has improved the fundamentals with his swing this season, and he's doing really well. He's actually lowered his strikeout ratio. So whatever they're doing in this system is working. However, for some reason, those fundamentals are really hard for the guys to find at the major league level right now.
Very good point. We'll take another break and we'll wrap up when we come back. Stick around. Quick question here from Zach on Twitter. He asked the question, do you think the Steelers will sign a number 2 wide receiver?
I'm not really sure because I feel like they have a couple of options at wide receiver already going into this season. And whenever they were looking at the draft, their offensive line was their biggest concern. I think with a new offensive coordinator still, he's going to try to see what he has to work with, and then they'll make the moves from there.
I say ask me again on June 1st. Because it's going to be a big change there. A couple guys will probably be cap casualties. You'll have teams that have greater incentive to trade players off because they won't owe them as much against the salary cap. The team they trade them to will be able to foot the bill. So I say as we get closer to June 1st, they might be a definitive answer. If you ask me right now, I think it'll be a trade around or right after June 1st because that will change the situation with a lot of guys on that roster. We also have a question on Twitter. How many innings do you think Paul Skenes pitches tomorrow, Suzie?
This is a good question and one that I have been pondering a lot. I'm thinking 4, maybe 5. But it's also going to depend on his pitch count. He's only gotten to 75 pitches once all season in AAA Indianapolis. He's only gone 6 innings once in AAA Indianapolis. That was on April 30th in Buffalo. However, he showed flashes of 100-plus outings, 100-plus pitch outings. It was 13 times he went 100 pitches last year, and then 3 of his last 4 starts, he pitched 120-plus pitches. Is he going to do that tomorrow? No, but I'm thinking 4 or 5 innings, depending on what they want his pitch count to be.
I'm going to say 5. I imagine they're probably not going to, try to overtax him too much. They want him to be able to be controlled and maybe not think too much. I think we'll see a solid 5 from Paul Skenes. I think he'll be able to keep them in this game. The question is, how many runs will they score within that 5 to 7 inning, frame to try to, if not only keep him in his game, maybe help him get a win in his first start. But maybe I'm asking for too much. Thanks again to Suzie Cool for the time. For Suzie Cool, for our producer Steve Benko, and our team here at KDKA, I'm Josh Taylor. Thanks for watching. We'll see you here tomorrow night.